one thing I hate is don't tell, smart people how to do something. Let them figure it out. If they have a different way of getting the job done, who am I? If it's not breaking the rules, if it's different from my way, but it gets the job done the same way, same time, same cost, why not let them do it? So it's empowering people to be successful, I guess. Like, I'd rather try and make them, see the possibilities in their own potential, and then that way, you're always looking for your own replacement, right? Otherwise, if you don't have a replacement under you, you can't move up yourself.
Welcome to the Nicholas Brown Podcast, a podcast talk show about real estate investing, business leadership, and personal development. Each week, we explore current real-life case studies about how to build financial independence through investing in real estate to build your personal portfolio through passive income models, along with interviews from the top business leaders and personal development leaders. Now, here's your host, Nicholas Brown.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. I got an awesome episode. It's awesome. It's different. It's gonna be for it's education, and it's gonna be some nuggets involved. I already said to this guest here, the special guest, because he's an authority figure on LinkedIn. Also, I told him he's always welcome to come back and educate us. Because if you guys are watching, make sure you guys subscribe. If you're listening in on YouTube, subscribe. Because I know I'm going to subscribe if I'm working out or if I'm driving in the mornings or the afternoons in the traffic or whatever. This here is going to it's going to educate you. And he's tied on to LinkedIn. We're both tied on to LinkedIn. It's good networking, which you can always reach out to this gentleman here anytime too, for anything. He's an outgoer. He's one of those givers, as we say before, whether it's any types of subject. He's a giver. He'll do what it takes. But make sure you guys subscribe on YouTube. If you're looking at a podcast on your podcast station, download this and subscribe to this so you get alerts, because I definitely want to get people such as him to come back on to educate us on this. So I'm going to read the About section, and we're going to begin, and we may have to extend, so that's a purpose too. Go ahead and subscribe to this, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to read the About section, and here we go. Today's guest is Keith Stelter. Keith is internationally experienced oil and gas professional experience in the upstream and midstream segments, with an average monthly viewership, ladies and gentlemen, in excess of 200,000 views on LinkedIn, which I'm going to assume that just LinkedIn. 18 years of operational experience. Keith is being pivoted into LinkedIn's influencer and marketing specialist. Proof is in the pudding. Go to the site. Keith, matter of fact, type in Keith Stelter on LinkedIn, ladies and gentlemen. You'll see the example. So, utilizing his online presence to transform cold calls into warm calls and open previous closed doors. That's what's happening because of his influence on LinkedIn. Keith was raised on a farm in Canada, now residing in West Texas with his wife and young children. For more information, as I said before, reach out to Keith on his LinkedIn at Keith Stelter. I'm going to spell that for you guys who are listening in. KeithStelter. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me, sir. That was a great intro. Really appreciate it.
Okay. One side note, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, because I can see that we're going to get real deep into this. I'm going to make a purpose of this. So I want to set the scene and the mindset here. So as I said before, because I've written this down too, because I get so passionate. So I want to make sure I state this for a purpose. Subscribe and download our podcast. The purpose of this is ongoing episodes such as this surrounding topic tied into renewable energy. We're going to start providing more education, tips, and ideas along with perspectives on renewable energy and the buzzword call, which we had a side note conversation about this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to ask this again too. Net zero. Put simply, net zero refers to the balance between the amount of greenhouse gas produced and the amount removed from the atmosphere. We reach net zero when the amount we add is no more than the amount taken away. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for more video updates. I'm going to go in these words too. If you're working out, driving, or whatever, been out of school for a little bit, and you want to know what the definition is, I get that way too. Reason why I say this, affect is usually the verb meaning to pronounce an effect upon, as the weather affected his mood. Affect is usually a noun meaning a change that results when something is done or happens, as in computers have a huge effect on our lives. There are exceptions, but if you think of effect as a verb, as an effect, so on and so on. So I just want to plug that in your head because, as I said, those two words, net zero, renewable energy. What's affecting, what's effecting on that? That's the purpose of this guest here, this gentleman here, the authority figure. We're going to get more perspective and education on that. And we want to get you guys' perspective on that. Go to his LinkedIn. I'm pretty sure he has thick skin. We'll take your questions and answer it. Or we'll find out the answer. Or we'll have guests such as this he has too. And we'll get this because we're going to get to the next level. How can we solve this issue or this thing that's going on? So got that out the way. Welcome again, Keith.
Man, you're going at it. You're getting after it, sir. Thank you for having me on. Let's get to it. What do you want to know?
Hey, I want to know, and as you know too, I think the people that brought me to you, which is Andy and which is Juan. So make sure you guys, LinkedIn is powerful. Here's an example here, as I have this gentleman here. LinkedIn works. Would you agree, Keith?
Oh, 100%. I pivoted from the upstream to the midstream using nothing but LinkedIn and a few posts. So
wow. That's an example, ladies and gentlemen, which I'm going to do too. On this first event, when I have my first guest, Keith, on there, I always ask them 3 things so the audience can get to know you better. So if you come in time, we'll get more deeper into other conversation. But we focus when we have a new guest on there, 3 things: motivate, teach, and get us perspective. But it's going to be a tied around leadership too, because you're a great leader too. You have experience on that too. So what we're going to do, much. No problem. So what motivated you to get into your field that you're in now?
So necessity is usually a great motivator. I was in the wireline business, with Weatherford Schlumberger predominantly. Worked internationally overseas, Iraq, and all over U.S., Canada, and always thought my experience would carry me through. And eventually COVID came. I was the area manager for Weatherford and worked for Schlumberger a little bit and with some sales here in the Permian. And when COVID hit, well, that was of my position because like a lot of people, I got let go. And but before I got let go, I actually got a little extension because I kind of saw the writing on the wall that people weren't able to take meetings or get things going. And I worked with a great individual, a lady named Maciel Diaz. You might know her from Flipping the Barrel. She has her own podcast and a lot of presence on Instagram as well. And I saw what she was doing, and I'm like, she's got it figured out. Like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So I started reaching out to people and posting on LinkedIn, and got a little bit of a reprieve for a while. It basically, I got a chance to, stay on longer than probably, like, even my own boss got laid off, and stay on for a little bit longer. COVID, once again, decided I'm the product, so I got to, market myself and reaching out to people, started telling stories about my experience, problems I solved, and eventually this caught on to where, I had quite a, opportunity where people were reaching out to me and wanted to know more and more about me, and it eventually led to this company in the midstream space. I've never worked in the midstream space. Arc Energy, great people over there, and they reached out and wanted, me to do what I'm doing now for them, and that's where I find myself today, and it's been a great experience. And like I said in my bio, using LinkedIn and being a little bit of an influencer. I can't believe I'm a grown man saying I'm an influencer.
No, you are. The president's influence is bigger. You're influence, which I'm gonna lead back to that. What led you? Have you always sound like you got an entrepreneur spirit or you got a people person spirit too? And reason why I say he's a people person, ladies and gentlemen, I like researching. If you look at his LinkedIn, people are drawn to him from all walks of whatever positions. He has his dad in there. His dad doesn't look like his dad. When he's going to his dad, they look like brothers. Like they just chilling. So he's a people person. So you got the skills, brother. But I'm gonna ask you this: what motivates you? Are you an entrepreneur? What you a leader though? How many people have you led before in your time?
You know, the last, when I was the area manager for Weatherford, there was
Okay.
probably 70
Wow.
employees there at
Okay.
least.
Okay.
I think I've led up to like 90 before, and it's it can be challenging.
You're
It's
right.
you want to try it. You basically got to get the most out of the company and the most out of the people. A lot of times people forget getting the most out of the company for the people, but that's how you keep the people motivated. And
That's right. That's
what
right.
what motivates me to get up in the morning is enjoying what I do. And right now, you know this is work. Right now, this is work hours. I'm getting to talk to you, and it's part of being the marketing and the sales part of what I do. And who
Does
wouldn't
it feel
enjoy
like
talking a
work?
little bit
Does it
about
feel like work?
themselves?
Does it feel like work or is it a passion? I mean,
No, it's
both, a
you
little bit
know
both. Just depends on
oh,
which
for sure,
subject.
because I was an operations guy. I never was a sales guy, but this
Oh, okay.
it it's a pivot, definitely. And it's having to reinvent myself a little bit. And now
Wow.
it's trying to make it happen. And I found a little bit of success definitely doing this. So
Okay.
it's
You learn to
I
adjust.
really have no complaints.
Okay. Okay. That's a blessing, man. That's a adjust. You learn
Very,
to
very
adjust.
blessed indeed.
Yeah. 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 You had a good raising up. I can tell that. Now, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, look at those videos of him, his father, and everything, and people
One other
who was
thing I
helping
got to
him up.
shout out,
Go ahead.
for that stuff. When I did get my job, I didn't forget all the people that helped me.
Yes,
So one thing
sir.
I tried doing was
Mm,
I called it Pay It Forward Fridays, and I
yes.
would feature somebody looking for a job
Wow.
using my platform, and it's helped numerous people, try and raise their own profiles up. So a lot of people got jobs from it, and it was nice
Wow.
to give back in
Okay.
that. So
Well, that's going to lead to the next question. We usually do it in the middle of the section, so you just jump straight to it. What is your definition of leadership, Keith?
uh, got to lead by example, and
Okay.
you got to help the team succeed by one thing I hate is don't tell smart people how to do something. Let them figure it out. If they have a different way of getting the job done, who am I? If it's not breaking the rules, if it's different from my way, but it gets the job done the same way, same time, same cost, why not let them do it? So it's empowering people to
Yeah.
be successful, I guess. Like, I'd rather try and make them you know see the possibilities in their own potential, and then that way you're always looking for your own replacement, right? Otherwise, if you don't have a replacement under you, you can't move up yourself.
This is Kobe Zen from the FLA podcast, and you're listening to the Nicholas Brown Podcast Show.
Wow, that's deep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Progress. Yeah, yeah. Man, that's strong. Ladies and gentlemen, I told him I wish I could record our initial talk yesterday because I'm just so deep. I hate I missed out. But that leads to the point of you've managed or been a leader or helped people get to be successful, whether it was 70 on your team or 7 on your team or whatever. Do you think there's such thing as culture in leading? Is there culture or a mission in leading? Do you believe in
For
that?
sure, right? If
Okay.
you're out for yourself, that'll come out very, very apparent in your leadership, and that'll translate to your team. And if everybody's out for themselves, well, then you're not going to get to the end goal very quickly. So if you make yourself available as a leader, they call it a servant leadership. A lot of places do, and you know, ask your team what they need to be successful, and be available, and not why didn't you get this done? It was like, well, basically, we got to look at how we failed together, or how did we succeed together and let's build off those successes. So it
That's
works
right.
both ways.
That's right. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. So you actually just taught someone too. That was the next question. Motivate, teach, and perspective. You just answered all three. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get a little bit further into it. Whereas I won't say it's no holds barred. We're just gonna me and him, we just want to keep it, real and get each one's perspective and get educated because I have had and I keep hearing the word, which I love researching, net zero and geothermal. Is that correct? That's how you pronounce it, correct? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then eventually, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna get more when we end. I apologize. We're gonna ask more about your business in the next few seconds, though. But I just want to get to the nuts and bolts on this so we can set the mindset. So net zero, I gave the education on that, and it's all about clean energy with me, which that's me personally. I'm up in age. Lord bless me to be 51, about to be 52. I want to provide for my kids and grandkids so they can breathe smoothly, But at the same time, I am aware of what goes on because people not educated or assume, for example, you're tied to the oil field. We're in Texas, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening in on there. I don't believe in taking out affecting people's pockets. And that's affecting the people who's doing that's pockets. But if we work together and get a perspective, we can overcome that and figure out how can we involve and make this a win-win situation. So that's why I have this person here, this gentleman here, Keith. He's straightforward. He's educating too. He's going to speak his mind, but we always have that key word. We put a comment on. I heard him say it. How can we make it? How can we make it, a level or win-win? Because I'm all about evolving. So that comes to the term. I'm going to ask you, what is geothermal? Thermal, and what's the ins and outs on there? What's your thoughts or perspective on it overall? How it ties in with the clean energy?
You know, geothermal works, and especially it's a good tie-in with the oil and gas industry because geothermal basically is utilizing heat in the ground to either warm or maintain heat or generate power through moving fluid, utilizing the hotter temperatures down below. But the main big cost for geothermal, like your average geothermal project might be $3 million because you got to drill this hole in the ground, right? Well, when you're in places like Texas and the United States, the oil and gas business has been drilling holes in the ground for many, many years. So all those holes already exist. So why not utilize them and run your geothermal piping down there and utilize the power that could be generated? And now it takes quite a bit of heat in certain areas, like East Texas is one, California is another, just a name. South Texas has some hotter areas that can utilize this. But now we're not talking from a geothermal perspective. According to Andy, we're talking,
Sure.
and that's where I'm getting a lot of my information from is, from $3 million to now we're in the few $100,000, $400,000 for the infrastructure, right? Well, wow, that's a significant reduction in cost, right? And now that makes it a whole lot more attractive. And for the oil and gas perspective, that's one way to look at, cleaning up some of these orphan wells that have been abandoned by companies that aren't around anymore, so that they don't come in, they don't pollute the groundwater. You put in the geothermal infrastructure on them, you cement them full, and now it's a secure structure, right? Which keeps the groundwater safe, which everybody is on board. The oil and gas business, has been around a long time. It's what made the United States and Europe as great as it is. The poor parts of the world, in my mind, never got those opportunities, and they should have the access, especially the technology. It's not the 50s or 60s or even the 80s anymore. There's ways to drill a whole lot cleaner and make sure we don't have these spills or these contaminants. A great story is here in the Permian Basin. There was a company that teamed up with an old age home, actually. I have a story on my podcast, Valley Book Troubleshooting. They came on and they told about they're going to help out this old age home that had the mineral rights. in the middle of town, and they wanted to explore these mineral rights so that they could help pay for the stays of some of the residents that really couldn't afford it. So this company teamed up with them. They're going to drill the wells right in the city limits, and that's pretty hard to do with all these people. Like there's a lot of chemicals and stuff. How do you do this in a way? So the first day they're drilling, you use what's called oil-based mud.
Okay.
And that smells like diesel. So here you have this diesel pit right in the middle of the city. And the CEO of this company gave his card out to all the residents. You got a problem, you call me, I'll direct it. So first night, this diesel pit's sitting by this guy's yard. He goes in his backyard. He's like, would you live with this? And the CEO's like, no, I wouldn't. So they drained it all out of there. They found Shell makes a very biodegradable, environmentally safe drilling mud for offshore. It's a lot more expensive. But the company ended up utilizing that here, realizing that its application, because of the long horizontal wells, actually works better. Now all their drilling programs utilize this. So now they're not using diesel mud anymore or oil-based mud. They're using this environmentally friendly. So, the innovation, it comes from necessity a lot of times, and there's ways to drill, positively with environment, because we need oil and gas. Like the world.
Right. It's not going to just move instantly. Yeah. That's what my point is. It's not going to go away.
The world population's growing. We need more energy, not less of it. The oil and gas industry is not against solar or wind or geothermal.
Right.
The only thing I think that ever comes up in conversation maybe is, the oil and gas business, everybody really focuses. If we have a spill or something, everybody, kind of attacks and focuses on that negative. And
here it is. Here's the misconception. CO2. Explain that. Because Andy was breaking it down, which actually could be a plus on renewal. So people have the misconception that it's bad because of CO2, what I'm getting, but that's incorrect. That's why I want everyone to get their own perspective and fact check on there. If you ask a little bit more questions and get with people with your authority figure, you do this every day, all day, you can get a better perspective compared to everybody watching the news. They're just hearing bits and pieces, not the full thing. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. They cherry pick. Now, do I want the whole atmosphere filled with CO2? Heck no. And nobody really does. But CO2 levels definitely have come up over the last few years. But one benefits I can name, I bet people don't know, that it is drought-proofed crops in places like India with massive populations. It has made the Sahara Desert greener than it ever has been. Where the major source of CO2 is in the world? It's the ocean. And a lot of people don't even know that. And CO2, there is things, the oil and gas industry, especially, we're focused on the CO2. We should be focused on the methane and what we could do with some of the emissions, and what we should be chaining some of that flare gas and stuff into energy for some of the overtaxed grids. There's lots of different solutions if you get with people working together on it. So
that's right.
It's, once again, are you willing to have a conversation and talk with somebody about it? Because there's usually more to it, just like solar, great idea. It's not just, okay, we'll put these panels on our house and everything will be great. They have a lifespan, right? And nobody generally talks about what it takes to dispose of the solar panels. There's some toxic chemicals in there, but that's not necessarily, I'm not saying we shouldn't use solar panels. We should probably maybe find a little bit more efficient way, a better way to recycle. And I think in time that'll definitely come, because why not? The oil and gas uses solar power all the time to run all the facility instrumentation. There's solar panels all over the site.
And cut costs, am I correct? It
and also the simplicity of it, right? Like, why wouldn't you have this you need a little bit of power to run a panel. So here you go. You got your solar panel and a battery, and poof, there you go. So it's not, we all need to work together. We need more energy, not less of it. And
and that's where you come into place, ladies and gentlemen.
The people that are saying that we could go to electric tomorrow just don't have any idea how much. Let's say you did, you'd still need to drill for oil and gas because of the amount of products that are made with oil and gas. Like, I kind of like to laugh at the people gluing their hands to the paintings or the walls and stuff, protesting oil and gas. I wonder if they know most of those products are made with oil and gas products, right?
Right.
Like you're literally using the products to protest the products, right? Like it's
Right. Right.
it, and but at the same time, we need pushback because we need a reason, to innovate and to evolve.
This is Dane Fuentes with Cumulus Media, and you guys are listening to the Nicholas Brown Podcast Show.
But that's where your company comes into place, ladies and gentlemen, which your company is Arc Energy, correct?
Yes, sir.
Explain that. That's where it ties in renewable. It's kind of like renewable. It's not renewable energy, but
It's not renewable, but
it's not.
it's so we're utilizing the Earth's resources to the max,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So, for instance, a site on an oil and gas site will need a separator, and that's just basically a vessel that fluid comes in. And if you've seen a salad dressing bottle, like balsamic, it's you got your oil on top and your water on the bottom, and that's how a separator works. Well, these wells last maybe 5 or 6 years, could be longer, could be shorter, and then that site is done. And there's no need to just throw that vessel away. What we'll do is we'll buy that vessel, recondition it, sandblast it, get it all cleaned up, get it retested, and we'll send it to another location so that you can buy what's called a reconditioned vessel, and you don't have to smelt new steel to get it built. And we'll do that with all kinds of different products, dehighs, entire gas plants. We'll recycle an entire gas plant, saving tons. So if you save 1 million tons of steel, that's essentially, because of the coal and all that's needed in the processes, 2 million tons of CO2. Like it's almost you can fight those numbers one way or another, saying, oh, it's not, but it's pretty much a 1-to-2 ratio. For every, pound of steel you save, you keep 2 pounds of CO2 out of the atmosphere, right? And that's what, you were talking about net zero, getting to some of those numbers. Now, ideally, I think net zero is, it's a way of thinking, but at the end of the day, I don't know if we'll ever get to a place where, you completely cancel it out, right?
Right.
Look at Tesla. Tesla's a great example, as seen as a great innovative green company, right? But at the end of the day, Tesla itself as a business doesn't save any CO2 from going out. Like building an electric car doesn't stop CO2 from being made. You still have to make steel. You still have to get rubber tires. You still have to get batteries. You still have to do all this stuff. Now, did the end user who bought the car make a choice that, okay, now my car doesn't produce any CO2? True enough, that they didn't. But at the same time, their power has to come from somewhere. And in the United States, the majority of the power is produced by burning natural gas. So instead of, burning the gasoline in one place, you burn the natural gas in another, and you kind of transferred it. So it's how you want to look at where you are in the equation. And it's
okay. Here's our question then, because we're not right now. We're just getting perspective and my thoughts, and I want you to get your thoughts on that. So, you don't think it's better to produce more electric vehicles so you can at least try to cut the CO2 from providing, even though you said, hey, you got the rubber, the wheels, or whatever, you're still doing it, but that's you're talking about commercial builders, not commercial compared to residential. The more people buying vehicles who's getting solar, whatever, they're cutting their costs or whatever, you know what I mean? So that's what my point is. At least, don't you feel like it's worth the steps to try? And then eventually, like you said, people are evolving the commercial, which you're in the commercial field, I'm in the residential field. You know what I mean? So don't you feel
right? The idea is great, and that's where, then you got to look at your grid, because the electric cars aren't really effective unless we change where we get our electricity from.
That's
right. And as of right now, to power our grid, solar and wind isn't there. So if we were to move away from natural gas, we'd have to replace it with nuclear, which I have no problem with. But a lot of people don't want a nuclear power plant in their backyard. So
I read up on that.
you're burning the fuel in your gas tank with a regular car, or you're burning the natural gas in the power plant with an electric car right now. So in the end, you know, and there's also how long are you going to have that electric car on the road? Because as of right now, because of the mining techniques, which are improving actually,
Right.
overseas to mine the lithium, you got to move it to place to process it, to move it, you know, in ships. That car's got to be on the road a long time to make up its carbon footprint, right? And how
Sure.
long do most people hold on to their cars more than 5 or 10 years?
No.
Generally, in today, they don't.
Right.
So, like I said, nobody's really against that, but people are thinking that that's the way we could go in the next 5, 10 years and solve a lot of issues. And for the, you know, your everyday traveler in the southern United States where it's not really cold, I think you probably could. But once again, now you're taxing the power grid, and now where are you going to get that power from, right? And a lot of people don't realize how much natural gas is burnt to produce that amount of electricity, right? So that's why the simplicity of gas powered cars has been around and dominant for so long is you fill up the tank instantly and you go, right?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick.
Thanks everyone for listening. You're listening to the Nicholas Brown Podcast.
Yeah.
I'm Logan.
I'm Clyde.
And you're listening to the Nicholas Brown Podcast.
Yes.
Another thing too is economics. I mean, when I say economics, the price and where the oil is coming from when they're fighting over Saudi and all that good stuff too. And I love to have you and Lucas on there. Lucas is a lobbyist that's talk about corn, how corn can be converted to help get what do they call it, gas, ether, or
Ethanol.
Ethanol. Exactly, yeah. So they're trying. That's what my point is. It's still trying, but people don't know, and that's the purpose of just getting a perspective and get a more detailed thought and what's happening now. So that leads to the next thing. We're going to finish up. How, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you just leave a message, leave a comment, leave us questions. That way, in time, I can forward this to Keith. If you're on the YouTube channel, that's why I say subscribe to this because we're about to end this. But that's the question now. How can it? Did you say you had a podcast? How can they get in contact with you?
Just go to my LinkedIn channel. I look up hashtag Tallybook Tuesday. And
Okay.
you'll find all the episodes. It is on YouTube as well, but I just put it there for people who don't have LinkedIn who follow me, and there's probably only like maybe 12 people that ever watch
That's
me
all
on
right.
there. So I never ever really do much with it, but it is there for sure.
Exposure. Okay. So hey, any last words? Anything you want to shout out? Got going on?
You know, we're going to be participating in the Social Octane Gatsby Ball on December 1st in Houston. We really love being a part of that. We're working with some companies to bring a lot of this thermal energy to, fruition.
Okay.
We're working actually in countries like in Iraq, which have a big flaring problem, to eliminate that flare, working with companies over there to take the gas that they don't consider valuable because they're so after the oil, that we're going to give them solutions of things they can use that gas for. And one big one is usually power generation, natural gas generators. Instead of just burning a big torch in the sky, they can put that into a generator and turn it into power. And you can also use flare gas to clean up produced water, which is another great thing. So this water that comes out of these wells, that's very, has a lot of salts and benzenes and stuff. The flare gas can power skids that can actually clean that up, and you can use that water directly for irrigation and stuff. That's something we'd love to try and do here in the Permian Basin, is take all the produced water, which is, there was a 5.3 earthquake here recently in West Texas, and a lot of people are trying to blame the saltwater disposal wells. And okay, there's no definitive answer that's the answer, but I'd love to, a great environmental message would be if we could take the flare gas, treat the produced water, and just start irrigating the Permian Basin. And instead of flying over and seeing this nice brown land that we currently live in, very desert, next few years, there's enough produced water, we could probably turn it into a nice green grassland.
Really?
And that would be shocking. You could take also that technology and all the oil wells in California and clean up the produced water they produce. You could fill up Lake Mead again with it again. There's, it's like I said, it's not 1984 anymore. There's technologies out there. Some of the costs, you'd have to start using them to really make them cost efficient. But it's the same kind of thing you're always dealing with solar and wind. You're not really going to get there until you use it. And like I said, the oil and gas industry is not against alternative energies because we know the world needs more energy. And the oil and gas industry just does bad job of PR. Like we're essentially, cheap, reliable energy for poor people. And that's what it's always been about, is that's how the United States and a lot of the, your regular person can go and buy a very cheap car, put cheap gas in their tank and get to work. And
But you know what,
a lot of
Keith? We thank God. Well, I'm spiritual. We think people like you, when you said the poor people, whatever, because you got to keep enduring and be out there for those people that don't know or just think prayer is gonna help. Prayer without works is dead, as we say. So you got to keep getting out there, like I'm getting out there for the poor people. They don't understand what's out there, man, and what's about to happen. So I say you either roll or you're gonna get rolled over. I hate that type of thinking. But that leads to the point where you said you came with an idea, which shout out to that webinar you had with Andy. You tell them about the vacant oil wells and what's your ideas on that. You and Andy got a little bit deep on that, which that makes sense. Could you explain
For sure.
that? And we'll be done. I'll apologize. We'll be done in a second. I just gotta plug that, man. I gotta plug that. That's important, brother.
I mentioned it earlier, like the big cost for geothermal is drilling the well, right? And in Texas and all the United States, there's millions of wells already drilled. And once they come to the end of their life, they need to be abandoned. And essentially that process is just filling them up with cement. But in this case, talking with Andy, we could get his geothermal setup, which is basically kind of two pipes that go down and circulate fluid from the hot zone and keeps it coming back to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
It could utilize that to make up to a megawatt of power a day
and it regenerates.
And it just lasts forever.
Exactly.
Forever, right?
It's a little bit higher step than solar. Yeah, it's a higher step than solar, or whatever, and it's regenerating hot and cold or whatever. I mean, yeah.
And it solves a problem also for what do you do with these old oil wells, right? And and so that's what we were kind of talking about on the podcast there. He was talking about geothermal and where it is, but eventually we ended up at that kind of place where, hey, we got the wells here. Let's start using them, right? And that's why I say the oil and gas industry is not against green energy.
Right.
A lot of that we get maybe pitted against each other with funding or other things, but it's
mostly political too, man. It's political, and like I said, and whoever got PR, the money, right? Exactly, PR and misconception. You got to fact check, brother. I feel like you got to fact check. You got to make that one more step. Like I'm stepping to you to get your perspective and fact check. So, boom.
For sure, right? Like at one point, the mayor of Midland was in Washington, D.C. here. He was giving a talk recently, a luncheon, and one of the reporters asked, like, why do oil and gas people want to kill polar bears? And it's like, what? Like, how does one even respond to a question like that? We don't want to kill polar bears, but it had to do with drilling in Anwar way up north and stuff and displacing. Okay, you're right. There's a displacement there, but a lot of the oil, once the site is done with and you have the oil and gas well, you put a little shack over it that's not very big, and then you just reclaim the land. Like if you take a look at some of the mining, which is being done for lithium, for the electric cars, you're not reclaiming that land in a few days and stuff like that.
Right.
So there's good and bad on every side, right? And it's just a matter of who's cheerleading on the one side and who's cheerleading on the other.
Right.
Because oil and gas, we got our fair share. We've made spills and we got to hold ourselves to a higher level. But we've been around a lot longer too, right? And
right.
It shows that we're definitely here to stay, because even look at Germany. I don't know if you heard this story. recently Germany had a big wind farm, and they tore all the windmills down to strip mine the land to get coal, because they're firing back up their coal power plants because they don't have natural gas anymore from the pipeline being shut down from Russia. So that shows
Man,
you where
wow.
they put their, the
Mm.
reliability or what the efficiency is that they basically bet that they could produce more energy from the coal versus the windmills. And so that shows, like, we still got a ways to go there. And at the end of the day, we need more power. I don't want a big coal plant. I think that's like 1800s technology for sure, right?
Right.
But
But they
if you're
wasn't
not going to,
prepared. You gotta be prepared. Well, they wasn't prepared. They wasn't expecting, like I said, what's going on too now, though. But at that time, it was trying, though. But that was the worst case scenario that happened. It had to convert back to what's
they rush, everybody trying to rush the conversion. I wish we could get a lot of people to listen how we could do a way better job in the oil and gas business to where it isn't as bad and dirty and killing polar bears as what it's made out to. And for the most part, a lot of the big companies are already doing that. The Shells, the Exxons, the Chevrons, they take major steps to keep it safe, to keep it clean. And
they need more PR like you. That's basically what it is. It's not enough
well,
PR to present it out there.
and
All this.
people willing to ask the question, be like, man, I'm told you guys are just the worst. Is that true? And be like, well, not really, man. But
and they want to hear bad
now,
stuff. People only respond to bad stuff. They spread it all over the news and sell something. They say this is boring, though, but it's progress. You only hear it when it gets worse. That's why I hate that part.
We all got to work together. Like I mentioned, the strip mining for lithium. Well, it turns out there's an oil and gas drilling technique where we can drill wells and circulate fluid to bring lithium to the surface. So we don't need to make those. So that'll help, make more electric cars. So there's innovations in all the different sides here. And we all got to realize we're all in this together. Right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. Which, like I said, I appreciate you, and like I said, I'm excited to do more episodes like this. And you ever need me, which we're both on the same team, I'll say that too, because we're trying to help. I'm trying to progress. I'm in the solar field. I just learned that, and I deal with the mortgage brokers. But I'm on the residential. You're more on the commercial, more worldwide. Why would you pay my point is, why would you pay an electric bill when you can convert it to solar panels and cut that cost? Now you control it. The grids, the 3 grids that's in the U.S., they're tacky, man. It's so out of place. It's so prehistoric. People not aware of that. But if you can control by getting your solar panel, even if you got to convert, people don't know they're wasting money on those grids also. That's what gets me, man. That's just crazy when you do your research on that, though. But it's all about control, because I'm an investor, real estate, mortgage, everything. I listen to people's perspectives of yourself, but I love to get out there and help the poor, people who don't want to listen or be there for them, and guide them to people such as Keith. Listen to his perspective. If you don't believe him, get a perspective from that. So once again, man, I appreciate your time. I'd love to have you on another show in the future, but if you ever need anything else, feel free to reach out to me.
Will do, sir. Really appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. As always, don't condemn, don't complain, because you have a choice to make a change. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us on the Nicholas Brown Podcast. Make sure to visit our website, www.nickbrowninc.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like this show and you are a new real estate investor, then check out one of Nicholas's free reports called the Wholesale Dominator Report, also located on our website, www.nickbrowninc.com/free reports. Be sure to tune in for our next episode. And remember, don't condemn, don't complain, because you have a choice to make a change. Have a great day.